First question, we're ready to start. You said you're referring to an act of terrorism that took place in India, and it was blamed on Islam. And you're asking, how do we explain ourselves time and again about our religion of peace? How will the non-Muslims be convinced? Well, first of all, our religion doesn't tell us that it's a religion of peace. It's a religion of submission. Understand that, because there's no peace until you submit to Allah. The artificial peace that comes about between tribes, between nations, between people, that's based on agendas, money, things like that, won't last. But when it's based on the right faith and commitment, then it always lasts. And that's Islam itself. But I know what you were trying to say, I think, and I just want to make that correction. We don't say Islam is peace. If it is, then why don't we say Islam alaikum? We say Salam alaikum. So make that distinction. You didn't say this, but I'll mention it because the way you brought it up. Some people say Islam is a religion of tolerance. Have you ever heard that? Well, the reason people don't accept it when you say that is because it's very obvious from the very first word that you read in the encyclopedia that that's not true. The first words on our website talking about what's Islam do not say tolerance. We have a website, whatsislam.com. It never said Islam is tolerance. It says it's submission, surrender, obedience, sincerity, and peace with Allah from whatever you get. Does Allah tolerate that people set up others with Him in worship, yes or no? That's the number one rule, isn't it? He said He can forgive anything except shirk. He says, I don't forgive shirk, but anything less than that I can forgive. So it's very clear He's not going to tolerate it. And how about the statement, وَمَن يَبْتَغِي غَيْرَ الْإِسْلَامَ دِينًا فَلَا يُقْبَلَ مِنْهُ وَهُوَ فِي الْآخِرَةِ مِنَ الْخَاسِرِينَ. That He says in the Quran in chapter 3 verse 85, whoever seeks after a different way of life other than what I prescribe for them, I'm not going to accept it. And in the hereafter they'll be with the losers. That don't sound real tolerant, does it? It's not about tolerance in the way that we talk about it. But Allah is merciful, very merciful. And Allah is very compassionate. He is the ultimate of compassionate, ultimate of mercy. And He is also the loving. So we understand that Allah has a lot of things that are better than tolerance. Tolerant means to put up with something. Allah makes things better. But to come back to the subject itself, and I don't want to avoid that. You said there was an act of terrorism in India, and I agree with you. I reported on it long before you even had it in the papers over here in Malaysia, because we have a website for news, and I have to keep up with stuff like that. As soon as it was happening, we were reporting it. But the real eyewitness reports don't jive up with what the new history is today. The eyewitness reports that we have, and we reported on it, show clearly that it was some people that came up from the sea. And they went in commando style and started opening fire on people, indiscriminate. They were killing men, women, children, Muslims, Hindus, everybody. Couldn't have been a Muslim. I don't care what his name was. Couldn't have been a Muslim, because at the moment that a Muslim kills a Muslim, he's not a believer anymore. That's the end of that story. And I'm serious, that's what our Prophet said. He said if two Muslims are fighting and one is killed, both of them go to hell. The one who killed him, but he also goes, because if he could have, he would have killed the other one. They both go to hell. So, of course, the non-Muslim press is going to use their journalists to say whatever they want to say, you know, whatever their agenda is today. But I wouldn't worry about that as much as I would concern myself about what is behind that. Who is really doing these things, and could they do it here too? These people whoever they are, and I'm not going to tell you more than that in a public speech anyway, but these guys, they'll stop at nothing. They'll kill their own grandmother. You understand that? With no conscience about it, zero. So you want to guard yourself against that. One of the things I would suggest, really, in Malaysia, you guys, you're very soft, you're very sweet, but you need to be careful and tighten up your borders and watch for these kind of people. And don't be afraid because somebody's wearing, like I'm dressed like this, don't be afraid to ask them what they're carrying. Don't be afraid to search them. Don't feel like, well, he's a sheikh, we won't ask him. No, I've worked in prisons for years, and people know me so well in the prisons, they'll say, oh, you can go on in. I say, no, you search me, because I guarantee you if something does go wrong, I don't want people coming back later and saying, oh, we didn't search him, maybe he had something to do with it. Okay, I have no problem with it. You should do it. You should do it. If there's a danger, the Muslim is the first one to use their aql and cover themselves. There's a saying in Arabic, mu'min kayusin fatan. In the difficulties, in the bad times, when things are just upside down, the believer, he's good in those situations. Another saying from the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he said that the believer never gets bit at the same snake hole twice. We know, we have to be careful. And you don't let people come in and do things and then blame it on the Muslims. And at the same time, if you got Muslims who are talking stupid, take them aside and give them proper education. Let them understand what works and what doesn't work. It's your responsibility as believers to convey the proper message to our youth today, because they're getting some strange stories and they're believing a lot of stuff in the newspaper too. Be careful. That was a great question.